Okay, in the last lecture I have showed you how we can use starters to create our Gatsby projects. Now we have installed a new Gatsby project with the Gatsby starter Hello World. So let's go ahead and open it. Let's go in the directory. And if you haven't created a new Gatsby project with the Hello World starter, I suggest you do that right now and follow along. So let's open the project. And now let's see what we have here. As you can see, we have three folders: Node Modules, SRC, and Static. Now, node modules are the dependencies that our Gatsby.js project needs, and you can find all the dependencies here in the package.json file. So they are basically installed, but if this node modules folder is missing, just go to the console and type npm install, and this will install all the dependencies in your node modules. Okay, so now the next folder that we have is the SRC folder, which contains the pages folder. So basically here in the pages folder you would want to store all the pages that you want your website to have, but you store them as JS files. Now let's go ahead and see what our index.js file has. It basically has two lines: import React from React and export a default function. If you're not familiar with React, that's okay. I'm going to try to explain all the steps that you need to take in order to run your code here. So whenever you create a JS file in your pages folder, you would need to import React on top. And after that, you would need to export the function that provides JSX. This is basically JavaScript entangled with HTML. We're going to get that later on. So now what I wanted to show you here is that we just export an HTML, which is basically just hello world. So whenever we want to create a new page, we just need to create a new file in the pages folder, and let's call it test.js. Now the first thing that you need to do in your new JS file here is to import React from React on top. And now let's go ahead and create our page. We would need to create a constant, which is going to be const of test, that is going to be equal to a function, an arrow function, that it's going to return HTML. So let's give it an h1 and let's provide this is a test page. So having noticed here that I'm using those brackets and I'm not using those, this is very important when you're using React. If you use those brackets over here, you would need to return your HTML code. So basically you would need to type return and provide the brackets here and put your HTML code inside. However, as we want to save some code writing, we are using those brackets instead, and we'll remove the return here. Now what you need to remember here is to always export your components here. So let's export default our test component that we have created. Now one thing you should remember when you create your React components is that they cannot return multiple HTML containers. What do I mean by that? For example, if you want to create a new line, which is basically a new h1 like this, you would need to wrap it in a div tag. So create a div. So copy your h1 lines here and put them inside the div. Now let's format it a little bit. Okay, so now let's test our Gatsby project. Let's open a terminal and type Gatsby develop. And this will compile our project and run it on 8000. So let's just wait for everything to be built up. As you can see, we have a public folder here which contains all the files of our project which are compiled, and you can see here that are currently creating. And we have a cache folder. So this is basically all the files that we need for our project. And let's open our local host and see what we have there. As you can see, we have the hello world, and let's go ahead and try to go to our test web page. And as you can see, we have rendered our test web page. So this is it for this lecture. I'm going to see you in the next one.